Tonight, Russian drones are shot down over Poland for the first time ever as Vladimir Putin goads the West. Poland says it was directly targeted in what's being described as a dangerous provocation. That's been denied by Moscow. And even as countries across Europe voice their condemnation, Ukraine's defense minister tells me Russia is preparing for war against NATO.
It's absolutely terrible. Another one act of aggression, act of military crime against a member country of NATO. For now, we can't see any signals from Russian side that they will stop this war. And we understand that we need to act. We need to move into our head because Putin continue play games.
That full interview coming up. Whatever happens next could very well affect the security of everyone in Europe. We'll discuss that tonight. Also coming up.
I regret very, very deeply indeed carrying on that association with him for far longer than I should have done.
The leaked emails from Britain's ambassador to the UK to paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, urging him to fight for early release from prison. In France, an economic crisis and nationwide protests as the new Prime Minister takes office. And inside Nepal's burnt-out parliament after mass demonstrations against a social media ban. Good evening. We'll have all of that in a moment, but we start with breaking news in the United States, where the right-wing influencer Charlie Kirk, who's a big supporter of Donald Trump, is in critical condition. He was shot while he was speaking at an event in Utah. Let's bring in our David Blevins, who joins me live from Washington. David, shocking footage emerging on social media of that moment that Charlie Kirk was shot while he was giving a speech there in Utah.
Yes, this was the first stop on what he called the American Comeback Tour. Charlie Kirk was addressing a crowd of 2,000 to 3,000 people at Utah Valley University. He had tweeted online earlier that they were fired up for the event, but in videos circulating online, a shot can be clearly heard ringing out. Then he is visibly impacted by that, and there is an audible shock and then panic among the crowd. We're told there's a palpable sense of shock at the White House this evening. President Trump posting online that we must all pray for Charlie Kirk, who has been shot. A great guy from top to bottom. God bless him, he writes. The Vice President J.D. Vance, who is a very good friend of Charlie Kirk, echoing that call for prayers and describing him as a genuine guy with a young family. Charlie Kirk, of course, is a very high-profile conservative activist, writer and broadcaster here in the United States. He has somewhere in the region of 20 million followers online. He has written a number of books. He has a weekly podcast and radio program and is a very high-profile supporter of Donald Trump, has been very vocal on issues like the January 6th raid on the Capitol, disputing often the result of the 2020 election. So while he has a huge number of followers, he's also a somewhat controversial figures. We're told somewhere in the region of 6,000 people had signed a petition opposing his participation in this event in Utah.
Yeah, as you say, we're getting more information coming in. It's all very fresh. It happened in the last half an hour or so. And as you say, he has a huge following and he's still viewed as a somewhat controversial figure. But the images are truly quite shocking. And this does put to the forefront the horrors of gun violence in the United States.
Yes, it certainly does. The FBI Director Kash Patel says the FBI is lending its support to the response and investigation as we speak, Yalda, but it does again really illustrate just how polarised America is in terms of its politics and just how dangerous a place this is in terms of access to guns. I think it's important also to think about how difficult it is to secure an outdoor venue like the one at Utah Valley Valley University, where Charlie Kirk was speaking this afternoon. Virtually impossible to put an entire university campus into lockdown, even when there is someone of such high profile speaking there. He appears to have just finished answering a question at the event when the shot can be heard ringing out. The picture is very disturbing, and it's understandable why the White House and people right across the United States are very shocked by the pictures coming in from Utah this evening. As I say, Charlie Kirk is very high profile. He was the founder and president of an organisation called Turning Point. That is a youth activist organisation, a non-profit that promotes conservative ideas among high school and college students, and the author of a number of books, including The MAGA Doctrine, so known to many people and to many young people in particular. He is something of an icon, and that's why this incident may be something of a pivotal moment for America, when people will have to decide whether it's time for them to try to come closer together in their politics, or whether this kind of gun attack is going to drive them even further apart.
Yeah, as you say, a horrific, shocking incident there in Utah Valley University, where Charlie Kirk was shot at that event. Thank you so much, David, for bringing us up to date. We were just looking at some of those live images coming in from the area. We will be bringing our audiences up to date as soon as we have some more information on the incident. You're just looking at those live images, aerial shots from Utah. We are waiting to get more information on the condition of Charlie Kirk, but it is believed that he is in a critical condition. Shocking images emerging also on social media of the moment of the shooting incident that took place in Utah in the last half an hour or so. Now, last night, we brought you details of a dangerous escalation in the Middle East. Now another provocation, much, much closer to home. 19 Russian drones were shot down by fighter jets overnight. And here's the important bit. They were shot down over Poland. And those fighter jets, well, they were being flown by Polish, Dutch and Italian pilots under the umbrella of the NATO Defence Alliance. This destroyed drone that you're looking at here on this screen is evidence of the first direct engagement between NATO and Russia. It's been described by leaders in Europe as reckless and unprecedented. Donald Trump's response, a short social media post expressing bemusement. "Here we go," he wrote, those words underlining his failure to influence, cajole, or even bully Vladimir Putin. Have a listen.
We get a lot of bull thrown at us by Putin, for you want to know the truth. He's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless. I'm not thrilled about the whole situation. It's not a good situation. We are not thrilled about the way that went down today.
Well, Donald Trump losing his patience at Vladimir Putin back in July, and his final words there in that clip were directed at the Israeli Prime Minister, who defied Washington when he struck the capital city of Qatar yesterday. Well, Donald Trump has made a huge miscalculation about these two men. He thought he could change the course of two wars with the sheer force of his personality. He's been proven wrong. And that's why part of my conversation with the head of NATO yesterday was so unsettling. Just have a listen.
It is up to the American president, and Trump is doing this, and that's what I commend him for, to take that leadership role. We cannot end these conflicts without the president of the US being personally involved.
Mark Rutte, NATO, the West have looked to Donald Trump to be the world's enforcer, but the president's strategy isn't working. So what happens to Ukraine? How much further will Russia go? Let's get started with our first report from our international affairs editor, Dominic Weichhorn.
The sound of NATO and Russian aircraft duelling in the skies over Poland. The Ukraine conflict just became even more dangerous. As many as 20 unmanned Russian drones like this one launched into the airspace of a NATO country. Its Prime Minister wasn't downplaying the gravity of the situation.
This is the first time Russian drones were shot down on the territory of a NATO member state. That's why all our NATO partners consider the situation as serious.
The attack on Poland follows the worst drone attack on Ukraine since the war began. An unprecedented 800 launched on Sunday night. The odd drone or missile has strayed into Eastern European countries before. This many, though, in one go could not have been an accident. But NATO's Secretary-General refused to accuse Moscow of launching them at Poland on purpose.
A full assessment is ongoing. But of course, whether it was intentionally or not, it is absolutely reckless. It is absolutely dangerous. But as I said, the full assessment is ongoing. And to Putin, I mean, my message is clear. Stop the war in Ukraine.
In London, European defence ministers also stopped short of saying this attack was deliberate, because doing so, they know, would demand a much more aggressive response.
Together, we, the E5, totally condemn these attacks. Russia's actions are reckless, they're dangerous, they're unprecedented. We see what Putin is doing. Yet again, he is testing us. Yet again, we will stand firm.
But is NATO passing Putin's test? What the alliance does next could well be crucial for all of our security. The message from defence ministers here appears to be keep calm and carry on while the alliance as a whole works out what to do next. NATO has invoked Article 4, immediate military consultations on how to respond to situations of urgency. As for the ultimate guarantor of security in Europe, well, this was the US president's response. What's with Russia violating Poland's airspace with drones, Donald Trump posted. Here we go, exclamation mark. For its part, Russia has been issuing a variety of denials.
This is not the first time. Every time military objects fly into Polish territory, they immediately start blaming the Russian side. As usual, no evidence provided. I think this time it will be the same.
NATO must choose its next move carefully. There's a huge amount at stake and overreacting could be dangerous. But nothing the alliance has done so far in response is likely to worry Vladimir Putin and deter him from testing it further. Dominic Waghorn, Sky News.
OK, let's just talk through what we know so far. At least 19 Russian drones entered Polish airspace last night. As Polish and NATO forces struck them down from the skies, litter and debris rained down across the country. Sky News has verified multiple locations where Russian drones crashed down across Poland. One drone reached a town which was around 250 kilometres away from the Ukrainian and Belarus border. That's 250 kilometres inside Polish territory. Well, this evening, I spoke to Ukraine's Defence Minister, Denis Shmyhal, who's in the UK for talks with his British and German counterparts. We spoke about whether Donald Trump is doing enough to support his country. But he began by giving me his reaction to today's developments.
So, first of all, we condemn this act of aggression against Poland, as all of the partners here in Europe, all around the world. It's absolutely terrible. Another one act of aggression, act of military crime against member country of NATO. Unfortunately, during this night, Ukraine was under attack of 415 battle drones from Russia, under attack of 46 cruise missiles and 5 ballistic missiles. 20 of these drones, mostly decoy drones, attacked Polish territory. From my point of view, it was like a try to test member NATO, how NATO will react, how Poland will react, to make measures, how long it will take for a reaction. So this is Russian strategy to be ready for war with NATO.
Donald Trump says that he wants to bring this war to an end, and if Russia doesn't come to the negotiating table, then he will implement the sanctions, although the administration is concerned that if they implement the sanctions, it will derail any kind of peace talk, ceasefire at least. What's your view on that?
We so much appreciate all the efforts of President Trump, of his administration, of all United States nation. We appreciate efforts of European leaders, because it's a really huge effort of all leaders of the free democratic world. Unfortunately, as for now, we can't see any signals from Russian side that they will stop this war. And we understand that we need to act, we need to move into ahead, because Putin continue play games, and he just win a little bit more time for continuing of this war, for regrouping, for replacing of his battalions there in Ukraine, regrouping his armies, rearming them, refreshing them. So now we understand that we need continue press on the front line from one side, and we need increase sanction pressure from another side to make this space for manipulation by Putin less and less. And secondary sanctions, sanctions on oil, gas, nuclear fuel, on spare parts for the Russian missiles should be much stronger, and we urge to partners, to European partners, to United States, to implement these strong sanctions on Russia. Only these measures will lead Putin to the negotiations in reality.
But all of these things have happened, and the attacks have escalated at a rate not seen even before the Alaska meeting. So when I ask whether Donald Trump is being naive, he famously said he would end this conflict in 24 hours. It's been 9 months. And you say that he keeps giving Vladimir Putin chances. Do you think he should stop giving Vladimir Putin chances? Because we're now seeing even NATO seeing Russian drones on their territory.
So Ukraine, as no one else in this world, would like to have a peace and would like to stop this war. So this is our real wish to stop this war. But unfortunately, we are a victim. Putin and Russia is aggressor. We understand that this war should stop. There is only two ways. Or we will win on the front line, but Russia is nuclear state. We should understand this. And we understand that on the battlefield, we liberate 50% of our territories.
That's not what Donald Trump is saying. He is indicating that you're losing on the front lines.
No, actually, my president demonstrates to our American partners that we are not losing. We liberate 50%.
What will Ukraine do? If you are abandoned by the United States, can you rely wholly on the Europeans?
So, first, all the world, we all understand that it's impossible to negotiate about Ukraine, about victim in this case, without participation of Ukraine. It's impossible to negotiate about European country without Europeans. We understand now that we have very good cooperation between our partners and allies. And yesterday's 30th UDCG meeting, so named Rammstein Group, demonstrates very good coordination and very high unity among partners.
There are reports that around 650 men of fighting age are thought to have fled Ukraine. President Zelensky has resisted Western pressure to lower the draft age from 25 to 18, which would add 800,000 potential recruits. And last year he lowered the age for mobilization from 27 to 25, and that was also deeply unpopular. You have a mobilization problem as well.
Absolutely not. So mobilization level in Ukraine for the last 12 months is absolutely sustainable, with a tendency to grow, and we mobilize all needed quantity of personnel to cover all of our losses and to form small reserves. I should say that unfortunately mobilization level in Russia cover their losses, despite the losses 5 times higher than Ukraine has. They cover all of these losses, so for them there is no problem. They lost 1 million persons since the beginning of this war. Half of them were killed, so they continue just firing, burning the people in the fire of war, don't calculating how much do they lost. So this is a challenge, and this is...
And they have the North Koreans supporting them, the Iranians supporting them. Do you feel that their allies are standing with them and yours are issuing statements, making big pledges, but not actually committing in the concrete way that you're asking them to?
The biggest threat for European continent is that Kremlin join their efforts with North Korea. They have 2 million army. They have bad technologies, but now Russia increase technologically their capacities. And as I told, for example, North Korean ballistic missiles now, with support of Russia, became much more precise, much more long distance. And it means that it will, if they will join their efforts, it will be a huge army, 1.9 million Russians, 2 million North Korean, with high technological weaponry, which Russia continue modify, with very developed electronic warfare, drones technologies, AI technologies, with Iranian drones and with support of Iran and other countries which support them quietly, without any political loud announcements. Unfortunately, there is forming a huge power in sense of armies, in sense of industrial military production. They can produce now a huge quantity, millions of artillery rounds. They may produce dozens of thousands missiles. They can produce hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of drones. So even all together, NATO allies can produce such a quantity of weaponry as for now. So this is a challenge. We need to increase this production. We need to implement all modern technologies, AI, electronic warfare, drone, all possible drone technologies with different new functions and capacities.
Do you believe that President Putin will ever come to the negotiating table?
I won't believe this. I won't believe so, but we need to all together create the conditions when Putin will need to go to the negotiations. In other way, if we will not create these conditions, no sanctions pressure, no enough weaponry for hold front line to Ukraine, so Putin has no reason to stop this war. So we need to create these conditions, and then we will see Putin on the negotiation table.
And those conditions are currently not being created?
As for now, not yet. We need to work together, increase sanction pressure. We need to have all needed weaponry, and we actually announced and we asked partners for additional $6 billion for this year for 3 kinds of drones. FPV drones, to have advantage on the front line, because as for now we have the same quantity of FPV as Russia has. We need interceptor drones to protect our sky and sky of Europe from Russian Shaheeds. And we need deep strike drones and deep strike missiles to continue pressure on Russian military production infrastructure, on Russian refineries. And we need to do so because in other way, Russia will not go to the negotiations.
Ukraine has always, throughout this conflict over the last few years, been very clear about what it needs and what Western allies need to do in order to bring this war to an end. And you talk about maximum pressure should put Vladimir Putin in a position where he needs to come to the negotiating table, not because he wants to. Yet that's not happening. Why?
We are continue to be very clear. We always very clearly and openly told to our partners what we need to finish this war, to stop this war. Now partners believe us that we have a trust between us and we have unity between us. So
including
now,
Donald Trump?
Now our cooperation is much more coordinated, much more fast. So I believe that this year we will have some very concrete results. Or we will bring Putin to the negotiation table, or partners will increase sanction pressure, and Ukraine will have more weaponry, more finances for drone production. So I'm sure, and I believe that it will happen this autumn.
Has President Trump given a timeline of when he might do that?
I have this information, so.
Defense Minister, really grateful for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, that was the Defence Minister of Ukraine speaking to us there. Let's speak to our Moscow correspondent, Ivor Bennett, who joins me now live from Moscow. Ivor, interesting listening there to the Defence Minister of Ukraine. No surprises that he's going to condemn today's drones flying into NATO territory, believed to be Russian drones. It does send a very clear message, though, from the Kremlin to the West.
Well, the view from Moscow, we have to say, is very different to the one we just heard there, of course. Russia always says that these concerns that it could one day attack a NATO member are complete nonsense, and there was plenty more of that today. I would say the various reactions we got from Russia fell into three categories today. There was deflection, there was denial, and there was outright derision, all of which focused on an apparent lack of evidence from Poland. First of all, the deflection that came from the Kremlin. Spokesman Dmitry Peskov declined to comment on the incident. He said it was a matter for the Ministry of Defence. But he did also say this. He said the leadership of the EU and NATO accuse Russia of provocations on a daily basis. Most of the time, he said, without even trying to present at least some kind of argument. So echoing that line we often hear from Moscow that I just mentioned. Next, the denial. That did come from the Ministry of Defence in a statement. It wasn't a straight denial, though. It said this: no targets on the territory of Poland were planned for striking, before then going on to talk about the maximum range of the drones in question. It said it doesn't exceed 700 kilometres, appearing to suggest that it wouldn't have been possible for these drones to have been launched from Russia. As for the derision, that came from the Russian state media here, which all day has been trying to tear down the Polish version of events. One paper claimed this was an attempt by Warsaw to influence Donald Trump, claiming that the drone debris was deliberately planted there. Another paper claimed this was a false flag operation carried out by Kyiv to create a pretext for the deployment of NATO troops in Ukraine, without being backed up by any evidence whatsoever, by the way. I think regardless of whether or not this was a deliberate provocation by Russia, I think what these various reactions really speak to, Yalda, is this increasingly emboldened stance we've been seeing from Moscow recently, which we discussed last week, actually. Vladimir Putin, of course, got that diplomatic boost in China, meeting all those leaders there. He still thinks he's got the military advantage on the battlefield. And, of course, no matter what Russia does, it appears immune from any kind of retribution from the United States. And I think all of this is feeding into this increasingly uncompromising, unapologetic stance we're seeing and hearing from Moscow. One quick word, though, on the timing of all of this. It comes just a few days ahead of some very big military drills that Russia will be holding in Belarus in just a few days' time, at the end of the week, beginning of next week. And that's going to be very close to the Polish border, the Lithuanian border too. Now, the last time these drills were held 4 years ago, it led to a massive military build-up of troops that was used for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So Poland and NATO's eastern flank was already on high alert ahead of these drills. I think this incident will ratchet up those tensions and anxieties several notches higher.
Yeah, indeed, very much so. Ivor, thank you so much. Now, the Secretary-General of NATO today said the alliance stands ready to defend every inch of Allied territory following the Russian drone incursion into Poland. A different approach from Mark Rutte, who, speaking to us on yesterday's programme, refused to comment on the violation of Qatar's sovereignty in an attack by Israel. One rule, it seems, for Russia, another for Israel. Mixed messaging that surely benefits Vladimir Putin. And despite international criticism of the attack, Israel shows no sign of stopping. Sky's Sally Lockwood reports from Doha.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Chaos and panic as Israel brought their war with Hamas to the streets of Doha. This move has destroyed the trust integral to Qatar's mediation efforts on the war in Gaza. And it's shattered the peace and security that defines life here.
I was coming home to my family, and the moment I stepped out of the car, I started hearing the loud noises that can only be compared to bombs.
Dr. Al Ansari, a senior figure in the Qatari government, says Benjamin Netanyahu has crossed a red line and there will be consequences.
As a father living here in Qatar, that moment was a moment of reckoning for me and for all my countrymen and people who reside here in Qatar, where our lives were at risk because of the narcissistic and personal ambitions of a political operator who wants to throw the whole region into chaos.
This satellite image shows the building well known for hosting mediators and Hamas political officials in Doha. And this is how it looked after the strike, which Israel has called entirely justified. It's not clear whether America, with its large military presence here, could have stopped this attack. And forensic officers, we're told, are still assessing the human cost.
Israel claims this was a precise strike designed to take out members of the Hamas leadership, but that didn't happen. We understand it was 5 more junior-ranking members of Hamas who were killed, along with a member of the Qatari security services, leaving many to ask, what was Benjamin Netanyahu thinking, and was this really worth it?
Qatar's neighbours have shared in their shock and anger. The president of the UAE and Saudi Crown Prince among Arab leaders visiting Doha in a show of solidarity and support. Gulf states stake their reputation on peace and stability, and this has been blown apart this week.
This attack demands an Arab, Islamic and international response to confront the aggression.
Qatar has hosted negotiations between warring parties for decades. Arguably, far more is achieved in Doha's 5-star hotels than on any battlefield. But this attack, we're told, has resulted in Gaza's ceasefire talks completely breaking down. Sally Lockwood, Sky News, Doha.
Well, I'm joined now by Gil Dickman, whose cousin Carmel Gat was taken hostage by Hamas in the 7th of October attack. Thank you so much, Gil. It's good to see you again. We've spoken a number of times. I just want to get your reaction to the strikes that took place in Qatar, in Doha yesterday, because, of course, from what we understand, the Hamas group that were meeting in that particular office were there to discuss a potential ceasefire deal, which obviously includes hostage negotiation and release.
That's right. So when the strike happened, the first thing I thought was that I'm very worried, because of the hostages in Gaza. First of all, we know that Hamas tends to use these kind of events as an excuse to hurt the hostages. And there are 48 hostages right now in Gaza. And we urge Hamas not to use this as an excuse to hit them or to hurt them in any way, because we know they weren't there. The strike was in Qatar. It wasn't in Gaza. There is no reason to hurt them. The second thing is that the negotiations were going, I thought, in the right direction. And if they were going in the right direction, well, I hope Hamas does not use this as an excuse as well to hurt or to stop or to halt the negotiations, because I would not even get into whether it was right or not to hit these people in Qatar. They're terrorists, but what matters for us as the innocent people of Israel is what happens to the hostages, is what happens to this war, and it is time to end it. And it is not an excuse to keep this war going forever and ever and ever, and for innocent people to get hurt. We want this to end, and we deserve this to end. 48 hostages deserve this. Gali and Ziv Berman, 2 twins. It's their 28th birthday today, and it's their 2nd birthday in captivity. They deserve to be back home.
Gil, do you believe or do you have hope that there will eventually be some kind of ceasefire?
Well, I think eventually it's going to happen. We've had ceasefires before. My cousin was really, really close to coming back just a few months ago in November 2023 when there was a ceasefire, but then it collapsed. And then there was another ceasefire and 33 hostages were released. Eventually, we're going to have a ceasefire. What we have to make sure is that it happens quickly, because the hostages are running out of time. And if you saw the horrible video of Eviatar David, the hostage who was held by Hamas, being starved by Hamas, he doesn't have much time. He needs food and he needs to go back home quickly before it's too late for him and for all the other hostages. And after we start the ceasefire, we have to make sure that it lasts until the last hostage and that this war ends, because the innocent people on the other side of the border don't deserve this as well.
Gil, I have about a minute left, but I just wanted to ask you, I spoke to former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett yesterday, and he said something like this could happen again and should happen again, that military strikes on Hamas, who are responsible for October 7, will happen in any capital all over the world. But do you believe that military aggression is the solution here?
Well, I'm not a military operator. I'm a cousin of Carmel, and what I wish is that Carmel would be here, and she's not. What we care about is Israelis, not politicians, the people of Israel. What we care about is life, and it's the life of our own people, and it's the life of all people, actually. And I think the solution for that is not by killing more people. It's by getting hostages home. It's by building some kind of bridge for peace between the two peoples here in Israel and Palestine. That's what we hope for. I believe the people on the other side also hope for the same thing. And I really hope that leaders who speak out in places like this start to speak about this as well, because this is the kind of vision that we as Israelis and Palestinians deserve.
Gil, thank you so much for joining us here on the programme.
Thank you. Good night.
OK, let's bring you some more now on that breaking news tonight in the United States, where the right-wing influencer Charlie Kirk, who is a big supporter of Donald Trump, is in critical condition. He was shot while he was speaking at a college event in Utah. Videos on social media show him sitting under a tent with the slogan, "The American Comeback," and "Prove me wrong," before a single shot is heard, with Kirk appearing to be hit in the neck. US President Donald Trump posted on social media saying, "We must all pray for Charlie Kirk, who has been shot. A great guy from top to bottom. God bless him." Well, Charlie Kirk was as I said, a big supporter of Donald Trump. Here he is speaking about the president at the Republican National Convention in 2020.
We may not have realized it at the time, but Trump is the bodyguard of Western civilization. Trump was elected to protect our families from the vengeful mob that seeks to destroy our way of life, our neighborhoods, schools, churches, and values. President Trump was elected to defend the American way of life.
That was Charlie Kirk speaking back at the Republican National Convention about Donald Trump in 2022. Let's bring in our David Blevins in Washington. David, a shocking incident that's taken place in Utah this afternoon.
Yes, Charlie Kirk was seated in a tent fielding questions from the audience at Utah Valley University when a single shot rang out. A video circulating online show him visibly impacted by that, and then absolute panic and chaos ensues on campus as people literally flee in fear. We're told by the FBI Director Kash Patel that the FBI is responding and lending its immediate support to this investigation. And as you say, Yalda, the president himself, along with Vice President J.D. Vance, who's a very good friend of Charlie Kirk, is calling on people across America to pray for him tonight. It would be difficult, really, to exaggerate the extent of his influence. Charlie Kirk has nearly 20 million followers on the various online platforms. He hosts a daily podcast and radio program, has authored a number of books, including The MAGA Doctrine, and was a very high-profile supporter of Donald Trump and of his various policies. This was the first stop on what he calls the American Comeback Tour. He was addressing 2,000 to 3,000 people at Utah Valley University afternoon when the shots rang out. Now, we were led to believe earlier that one suspect was in custody. That has since been corrected. We understand now that the person taken into custody is no longer believed to have been the gunman. So the university is telling us that there is no longer a suspect in custody. So that continues to be a cause for concern, as of course will be the potential impact of all of this on the politics, the deeply polarised politics of the United States.
Yeah, David, I just want to show live pictures now of the university, and I understand we can see the National Guard there at the university. You were saying there, David, that once the gunshot, rung out and took place, people were scrambling and trying to get out of the area. Some of that image is floating around on social media, including the moment of the incident.
Yes, a very disturbing video that I think very graphically illustrates just how deeply polarised America is and the danger that exists because of access to guns in the United States of America. As you say, the National Guard are on campus now, obviously working alongside the FBI and other law enforcement agencies. And of course, there will be heightened concern now, given that a suspect is no longer in custody. But beyond all of that, I think it is important to consider how difficult it is to secure an open-air venue for an event like this. It's virtually impossible to put an entire university campus into lockdown. 2,000 to 3,000 people were in attendance at this event. And of course, Charlie Kirk, while he has no shortage of followers, is a somewhat controversial figure. More than 6,000 people had signed a petition objecting to this event taking place there. But those 2,000 to 3,000 people witnessed the shot being fired, witnessed it appearing to visibly impact Charlie Kirk. We now know he's in a critical condition, and some of those eyewitnesses have been speaking to our colleagues at NBC. Let's just listen to what they've had to say.
The second student to get up was talking about transgenderism and how gun violence has been very frequent with that community, and that is when it happened. Pretty ironic.
Yeah, right after, during, right on that topic.
Yeah, it's when he got shot in the heart.
Yeah.
What did you all see? You're joining us. What did you see?
Well, I was about to enter the building. I heard what I thought was a gunshot, and I hurried and took cover. And then I saw the students running out, and I saw her. She was panicking. I thought she's having a panic attack. So then I grabbed her, and we ran through the tunnel, and then just brought her to my car over here to get her to calm down.
Some of the eyewitnesses there who were on campus when this incident took place. And David, we do have images, and we will show those images in a moment, of Charlie Kirk just moments before he was shot. And from the images appearing, he was shot near the neck while he was seated during that live Q&A session. We can see that still image there, some of those images coming out from his talk, and it was just these were taken just moments before he was shot. And eyewitnesses say, and the images circulating on social media show that he fell from his chair as those shots were fired. What's disturbing, David, is that we had initially heard that a suspect was in custody, and we just saw those images of the National Guard and other law enforcement and the authorities, from what it appears, scanning the university campus.
Yes, and initially there were pictures of a person being detained by law enforcement. So it would now appear that may have been the wrong person detained if there is no longer a suspect in custody. And that is most definitely a cause for concern, because that would mean this is not considered a secure zone at this time. Charlie Kirk was very fired up about this event just before it began. He posted that they were looking forward to this first stop on the American comeback tour. You can see from the pictures on your screen just how many people were there, an estimated 2,000 to 3,000 people, and they've witnessed the unthinkable this afternoon. Charlie Kirk, really, it would be difficult to overstate his influence. He is somewhat of an icon for this generation of young Americans. He's a writer, he is a broadcaster, he's an activist. He was the founder and is the president of an organisation called Turning Point. That is a conservative group that promotes ideas, a non-profit, among high school and college students. He wrote a number of books, including one entitled The MAGA Doctrine, and as I say, he has a total of 20 million or nearly 20 million followers on the various online platforms. I'm told, if I just can look at some of my notes, 7.3 million followers on TikTok, 7 million on Instagram, and 5 million on X. That tells you something about his influence among this generation of Americans.
Well, David, we've got an update now on the situation at that campus and an update on what the Conservative activist Charlie Kirk has faced. We have a statement here from Donald Trump who says, "The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He was loved and admired by all, especially me, and now he's no longer with us. Melania and my sympathies go out to his beautiful wife, Erica, and family. Charlie, we love you." So an update there from Donald Trump that Charlie Kirk, the 31-year-old conservative influencer, writer, commentator, is dead following that incident at Utah Valley University. A horrific incident, David. Those images of him being shot circulating on social media. And now Donald Trump has confirmed in what a post that he has put out saying the great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. Charlie Kirk was 31 years old. He is survived by his wife, Erica, and 2 young children.
Take a moment, Yalda, and remind our audience how influential Charlie Kirk was. As you say, he's a 31-year-old father. He was an activist, a writer and a broadcaster, hosted a daily podcast and radio programme, The Charlie Kirk Show. He was a very high-profile supporter of President Trump and his various policies. He founded and was the president of a non-profit organisation called Turning Point, which promotes conservative ideas among high school and college students. He authored a number of books, one of them simply entitled The MAGA Doctrine, and was followed by nearly 20 million young people in America. It would be difficult to exaggerate the extent of his influence, but his life has been cut tragically short this afternoon at Utah Valley University. He was on the first stop of what he called the American Comeback Tour, addressing a crowd of 2,000 to 3,000 people when a shot rang out. The videos circulating online show him impacted by that, and there is an audible panic and shock among the crowd as they flee, really, in fear for their own lives. Initially, we were told one suspect was in custody. We're told that is no longer the case. So it may not yet be a secure zone there. But right now, the thoughts of the White House, as we can clearly hear, are with Charlie Kirk's wife and with his family. President Trump knew him very well. Shortly after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump in July of last year, Charlie Kirk spoke at a rally in support of him. He was a very good friend of Vice President J.D. Vance. So the White House is this evening in mourning for a friend and someone who was a strong advocate of this administration's policies.
David, I'm just going to put that tweet of Donald Trump on Truth Social on our screen so we can have another look. In the last few minutes, Donald Trump confirming that Charlie Kirk is dead. He says the great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He was loved and admired by all, especially me, and now he's no longer with us. My sympathies go out to his wife, Erica, and family. Charlie, we love you. So a heartfelt statement there from the President of the United States to Charlie Kirk, a 31-year-old conservative activist, writer, author, podcaster who was shot near the neck this afternoon during a student Q&A at Utah Valley University in Utah. That was according to bystanders. And then we started to see the images appear on social media, horrific images of him being shot in the neck. The images you're seeing on the screen are just moments before that incident took place. And David, America in shock tonight. We've also heard from the former Vice President Kamala Harris, who shared a message and offered prayers earlier for Charlie Kirk after he was shot at the college event. She said political violence has no place in America. It just gives you a sense, following this horrific incident of this young man, 31 years old, with 2 young children, left now with his wife, Erica, of the political violence, the gun violence that has gripped and continues to grip America.
Yes, it is interesting to hear from the former Vice President Kamala Harris referencing gun violence in America, because we've heard similar comments this evening from the Republican side of US politics. And to a large extent, the shooting dead of Charlie Kirk illustrates the great divide that exists in American politics. It is such a polarised place, and it is a place that remains paralysed to some extent on the issue of access to guns. And so this is a moment of real jeopardy when you throw into that mix the extent of Charlie Kirk's influence among young people in America. Nearly 20 million followers online on the various platforms. And a moment for America really to ask itself the question again, is the death of a young father going to be the thing that brings them closer together, or is it going to be the thing that causes the divide to grow even deeper? Because so often in this place, even terrible tragedy is very quickly politicised. But this evening, the White House is focused on the personal, with President Trump expressing his sympathy to the wife and family of Charlie Kirk, paying a glowing tribute to a man who was very vocal in his support of Donald Trump throughout his various election campaigns and during his terms in the White House. Charlie Kirk was a very good friend of Vice President J.D. Vance and Donald Trump Jr. as well. They participated together in a number of events. I've been looking at the videos this evening. And so this really will be something that has caused immense shock to the Trump administration and to many across the United States this evening.
Indeed. And David, we have been getting some reaction from Washington to the killing there of 31-year-old Charlie Kirk. Let's just have a listen.
There's no reaction to what happened to Charlie Kirk today.
It's horrendous. To see it up close, good God. You know, people are trying to shut down free speech making like Charlie Kirk. There's no place in this society. This is what happens in third world countries. But so sad for his family and his children.
Do you think this country has a problem with political violence?
Absolutely. You know, put the handcuffs on the police and all this, it was in a gun-free zone too. And but a guy like that meant so much to this country. To take him down, you saw what happened in Charlotte, cashless bail. It's no excuse for it. It's time for people to take the country back. And but it's horrendous. And to see the up-close shooting and to see what happened in Charlotte, we've got to deal with it.
Thank you, Congressman.
David, we can just hear some of the shock there as the realization that Charlie Kirk has been shot dead, that images of him emerging on social media about an hour ago, shot near the neck while seated during a live Q&A session at Utah Valley University. And it looked horrific at the time. 31-year-old confirmed dead now by President of the United States, Donald Donald Trump, who put out a statement on Truth Social and said the great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. He goes on to say no one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. And David, just help us understand the influence of Charlie Kirk. You spoke a little bit there about the number of followers. He has millions and millions of followers on social media, but he really understood an aspect and a part of America that few did. And he was part of a movement of young people, conservative young people, very close, as you say, to Vice President J.D. Vance, and clearly admired by the US President Donald Trump as well.
Yes, and I think President Trump is correct in stating that perhaps few others understood the youth and the heart of conservative America, certainly in these days, more than Charlie Kirk did. He had an immense following online, nearly 20 million followers on the various platforms. He hosted a daily podcast and radio program which consistently appeared in the top 10 in terms of audience figures. He authored a number of books. He was a very vocal supporter of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, appearing alongside them regularly at various events. He appeared at a rally in support of Donald Trump just days after the attempted assassination of the president, or the then Republican candidate, back in July of last year. And it is an influence that really was extending beyond the United States as well because of his presence online. For example, back in June of this year, Charlie Kirk spoke at the Oxford Union in London. So it is not just those in America who will be shocked by the fact that he has been shot dead in Utah. It is his followers right across the world who supported his conservative ideas. He was the founder and went on to become president of a non-profit organisation called Turning Point. It was the fastest growing youth activist movement in the United States. That organisation promoting conservative ideas among high school and college students. And he had begun a tour that he described as the American Comeback Tour, and was on the very first leg of that when this shooting happened at Utah Valley University with such tragic consequences this afternoon.
Yeah, a tragic event. And we're just getting some updates from the local mayor saying the authorities are still searching for the suspect. As you said, David, we understood that someone had been taken into custody. We now understand that the authorities are still searching for the suspect. You can see live images there. The National Guard alongside the FBI and a number of other police enforcement and other authorities scouring and searching the area for the suspect. But Donald Trump, in the last few minutes, the US president, confirmed that Charlie Kirk has died following that shooting at the event at Utah Valley University. We'll leave you with these images of Charlie Kirk.